They did, yeah. We were happy. That's always a big concern when guys take a day off, is just getting that sense of urgency and snapping right back into it. And we were happy. It was far from perfect, which practices usually are, but the intent was there, and the mindset was there, which is what we were looking for.
You got a lot of guys that running back, obviously, that are vying for playing time, just sort of opening salvo in camp. How does that group look to you, and maybe who in that group has got off to a good start?
Yeah, well, it's still work in progress. We're rotating 5 guys. Marquise Stepp, the transfer, he's done some really good things, and this is really his first time taking reps because he was hurt in the spring, and he looks 100% ready to roll. Savion Morrison is rep with the 1s and 2s. He's doing some really good things. Gabe Irvin has made big steps, which we expected because you're a freshman, and your biggest steps you make. He was actually here in the spring, is from spring to fall, so he's doing some really good things. But so is Marvin, and Ramir. Ramir is probably having his best spring since he's been here. So we've got good competition there.
We heard Held on Sportsnet last night. I think that was recorded before camp, and he made a comment that Savion Morrison was talented, but had to learn how to handle things off the field, stay healthy, eat the right things. Have you noticed that he did that, and how is that affecting his performance in camp?
But yeah, that's exactly. I mean, one of his biggest hangups has been, and not always his fault, it's just been injured. He's had different things. He's had some bad luck with some injuries and got sick, and so missed a lot of practice, and we never really saw him. And so this spring's the first time we've been able to see him compete, and he's embraced it. And I'll give him a lot of credit. I think he did a good job of getting his body healthy in the offseason, which all those guys did. So he can physically, because running backs are going to get banged up. That's the nature of the position. And even though we haven't gone a live scrimmage yet, those guys are thudded, and they're taking shots, and they're running hard, and he's done a great job and hasn't missed a practice.
Matt, Coach Frost said the other day before camp started, he'd like to know, he'd like to have a bell cow, one guy and then one other guy. But he wants to know that sooner rather than later.
Sure.
Timetable on when you guys make such decisions. I know you're just coming up.
Yeah, no, we're only, I think today was practice 5, so we're kind of getting into it, and we'd like to get a definite 1 and then a 2, and the reason that is just so we can give him more of the reps, especially like right now we're installing our whole offense. We're exposing him to everything, but once we really start paring it down and doing the Illinois game plan, you want to have 1s, not just at his position, but every position, and you want to have 2s, but the 1s need a lot of reps, and so we're working on that. And yeah, sooner is always better than later, but we're very early into camp.
Can you talk about identifying that number 1 guy? What are some of the traits you're looking for in that number 1 running back?
Consistency, and that's not just a running back. That's every position. Who can we count on to do the right assignment? We ask our running backs to do a lot. We ask them to pass protect. We ask them to run down the middle. We ask them to catch balls. So who can do that the best on a consistent basis? And that's really every position. That's the quarterback, that's the offensive line, that's the receiver as well.
Hey, Matt, regarding Marquise, when you guys go full pads, do you expect that to be normal activity for him? Scott mentioned perhaps a pitch count. He was at media days last
Yeah.
week. So what you thought now with the pads coming tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, coming into this fall, we kind of thought, limited reps. Let's see what he can do. We don't want to rush him back too soon, but and see how he progresses. And he's been doing better than we thought as far as his health. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a practice by practice. I think he's ready to roll. In a scrimmage, if we had to play tomorrow, he'd be ready to roll. So we feel good about that. And yeah, he's kind of progressed a little bit faster than we thought he would from a health standpoint.
Matt, I know you mentioned on the radio in your past you've often had newcomers step into skill roles and play that first season. Are there some guys that had to jump on that? I mean, I know it's early, but that have impressed you through summer, kind of positioning themselves to do that are new?
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's way too early because practice 5. It's really hard on the newcomers that just got here because we're installing so many plays, especially early on, and eventually we're going to start paring it down. So they get into the situation where they're thinking and they can't really play, and so it's really unfair to give those guys an evaluation other than their attitude's been awesome, and our new guys have bought into the system and they're fun to be around. So that's the most important thing. The other thing where we're a lot different on offense is we have a lot of guys returning from last year. So we've installed we're way different spot this year as opposed to last year as far as experience. And so our install has gone a little bit faster. We've asked a little bit more. We put in more plays, which has kind of hurt our younger guys a little bit, but our older guys have been able to move forward, and we've been able to move at a faster pace. So I think we have more depth than we did last year. We have a lot more returning players, which is going to make it a little more challenging for the younger guys. And again, it's still early in camp, so we'll see.
In off-season evaluation of your red zone offense, what did you think you guys did well last year? And where do you have to get better? And it's been an issue for a couple of years, predates your
Sure.
time. Why have touchdown passes been such a problem for so low for the last couple of years?
Well, good question. No, that's a good question. We're always about throwing more touchdown passes. The red zone in general is a point of emphasis. We're going to emphasize the heck out of it. That's when you win or lose football games, and we want touchdowns, not field goals, obviously. Part of being in the red zone, just like in the open field, is executing and not beating ourselves. It seems like last year we had, whether it was a penalty, turnovers, inopportune times, that has nothing to do with our opponent. That's us. So the biggest thing, executing, take care of ourselves. I mean, no penalties, protecting the football, doing the right assignment. And what that does, that gets you into where you're ahead of the sticks, whether it's the red zone of the field, where you can take more shots, and throw the ball down the field more, which has been a point of emphasis. So it's a combination of things, but I think the red zone's a lot like the open field. Now the red zone's harder. I mean, the defense has less space to cover, and so it really forces you to execute. And part of it's just it's a mindset saying, hey, I'm not going to have as much room. I got to win my one-on-one battle, whatever position I am, and competing. And because the defense, that's a big deal of defense too. They want to stop you when they're in the red zone.
How was Dave Herman's pass blocking for a true freshman? How big of a factor will that be on whether or not he earns playing time this year?
Sure. His pass blocking is really good. That's a strength. Pass blocking is a lot about technique, but at the end of the day, it's about toughness. And that's what I've been really impressed with Gabe. And Gabe's talented, but he's very physically tough. So he runs the ball hard between the tackles. He'll run through contact, and then he's not afraid to take on a linebacker coming off the edge. So that's a big quality that we look for in all our players is physical and mental toughness.
Matt, how excited are you about those tight ends? I mean, it looked like all the NFL scouts were really watching those guys today. I mean, it seems like those top two have really stood out, and you have to probably like where they're at right now heading into this season.
No question. Yeah, the scouts should be looking at those guys because, I think my last year at Oregon, we had 3 tight ends that all went to the NFL, and these are the best 2 that I've ever been around from consistency, leadership, and just the way they practice. Coach Beck does a great job with them. They're making plays. We ask a lot from our tight ends because they have to be point of attack in the run game, but we also split them out as wide receivers, and they have to be able to make plays in the passing game. And so it's a lot on them mentally and physically, and they've done great. And they're leaders of our football team. I mean, the way they lead by example and how hard they practice is contagious, and it spreads to other guys.
Saw Omar Manning out there today. Just how has he been so far during camp, and has he been able to kind of pick up where he left off?
Sure. No, he's been really good. It goes back to the consistency. He's been very consistent. He's another guy that was, because of injuries last year, is kind of in and out of the lineup, especially during practice. And now he's healthy, and it's fun to see what he can do when he's healthy, and he's playing with confidence. Another first-year player that's been in the system for a year, so actually knows what he's doing, and so all that talent that we knew he had is starting to rise up to the top, and we're actually able to see it because he's confident what he's doing.
Ideally, how many receivers do you want to play? And it might not be a situation where you're looking for more, but you might have to pare it down. Ideally, how many do you like to rotate?
Yeah, we'd like to be able to play as many as we can. What I mean by that, our base personnel could be 2 tight ends, could be 3 receivers. We want to have a 2 deep that can at least go in there and function and play and make plays. Now, if we can play more guys, that makes everyone better because of rest, and guys are fresh. And we always talk about the end of the day, who's going to determine that is the players themselves. We're mix and matching different lineups. We got a lot of competition, which is making everybody better. But we'll keep seeing them. If we can play more guys, we'll play more guys. If we can only play 4 or 5 guys, we'll play 4 or 5 guys. But if it's close, it helps us as a football team, and not just a receiver at every position. The more guys we can play, the quarterback might be a little bit different. I think we have at least 6. I think we have more than that. I do. Our depth this year at receiver compared to last year is it's night and day because last year a lot of those guys were first-year guys. Now they've all been a year in the system, so we actually feel like we have a good 3 deep that can go in there and function and play and compete in football games and have success. You're gonna make me forget guys. Okay. Let's see. In no particular order, but yeah, we talked about Omar. We talked about or Oliver Martin's having a good camp. Samari Torres is playing great. Wyatt Lure's playing great. Alante Brown is playing great. You know, he was another guy that was hurt last year that's healthy, that's doing a great job. Xavier Betts is doing some really good things. Brody Belt's doing some really good things. And that's not really talking about our freshmen. And again, I want to kind of, they're all doing a good job, but I want to hold on those guys until, make a fair evaluation once they kind of know what they're doing and get a little more confidence. But all 3 of those guys, Sean Hardy, KG, Grimes is doing a great job, and Latrell Novell doing a great job. So they're all doing a good job. Again, it's just too early, only 4 practices to evaluate those guys. Those guys weren't here in the spring. Like some of our freshmen were actually here in the spring, so they definitely got a kickstart. But the guys that are here this fall are doing a great job, but it's just too early to say where they're at in the rotation.
Matt, Will Nixon over there.
And he's another guy. I hope I mentioned him because he's another guy that's having a great camp. That's battling out for that 2R, and he's battling.
Yeah, I wanted to give you that.
Yep, thank you.
Throw that name for him.
Appreciate you.
You mentioned Samori as a great mentor to him.
Yep.
And I know you liked his leadership in the winter and the spring. How has that even advanced through the summer and now in the first 5 practices?
Yeah. So first off, he leads by example. I mean, he handles everything like a pro. He seems like he never gets tired. He does everything full speed. So our players, and they see him have success. So our players kind of gravitate towards that. But he's also very humble. He helps out the other guys. He doesn't feel like a young guy because he's already helping out other young guys. Very humble, and then he's very driven. He's always wants to get better. He's kind of his worst critic. He always thinks he can do better, which is part of being a good football player. And he handles himself that way throughout the whole day. I mean, he's in the front row in meetings. He always wants to watch extra film. And so that's, as a coach, your best leaders are your players. And when they're doing things, especially they're making plays and they're doing things right, it rubs off on everybody else.
One thing that Samori talked about after the spring game was his bond with Omar and how they've helped each other. I wonder, from your perspective, how big has having Samori, another older guy who's transferred in, been through a lot, how has that helped Omar stay on track?
I think it's been huge. I know they spend a lot of time together off the field, and I know Omar's another guy that kind of looks to Samari because of his experience and the way he's done things, and this is how you do things, and that's been a huge deal. Samari rubbing off on Omar, and I think not just Omar, but he's rubbed off on a whole bunch of guys. But yeah, it's been great for us.
It's sort of a general question, but how close did you get last year to being where you wanted to be in the run game, and what is the next step overall in running the offense?
Sure. Well, like every part of football, we're always in a state of constant improvement. We always think we can get better. We did some good things in the run game. I think we were actually second in the league in rushing. We got to be more consistent, just like we do in the passing game. But the run game fits in with the passing game. So the better you can throw the ball, it helps out your run game. And same with running the ball. If we can run the ball really good, we're going to get some good looks from the defense to throw the ball. And so we really want to be balanced and be able to do well at both. But not the run game and the passing game just get better as an offense. It's just the details. And what I mean by details, every position has their own specific things, but it might be a step here. It might be playing with lower pads here. It might be keeping our hands inside as an offensive lineman. So just really doing the details. And, as an offense last year, run game, pass game, we did some things that had nothing to do with our opponent where we beat ourselves, which is the exact opposite of details when we turn the ball over or we have a penalty. And so that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to clean up first is the details as a whole offense of doing the right thing, doing our assignments, not turning the ball over, and reducing penalties. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that he's always looked good to me, but I think he has lost a couple of pounds, but I think he's also put on some muscle. Yeah, he just looks faster, and he's always been. He's one of the better running quarterbacks in the country, and I think he's actually gained a step. So, tribute to him. You know, that's a big thing when you've been a 3-year starter and you continue to keep working harder and pushing yourself and change your body. That shows you how driven he is, and it's showing on the practice field. Thanks, guys.